Okay, and this is on. Yes, you can hear me? Yay. All right. So thanks everybody for attending. Thank you to any virtual people out there. I don't know how many there are, but thank you for attending. I do have to use this because of the virtual people, so I'll be talking into this quite a bit, and so will Kelly. So I think I've talked to some of you at the table. I'm Dr. P.J. Davis, and I wrote the curriculum for the entry-level management training program. Just a little bit about myself. I started in community action November 9th, 1990, but who's counting, right? And I started as a part-time bookkeeper, and then I became an office person, clerical, and then I became a caseworker, and then I was a program director and assistant director, and then I became the executive director because I outlasted everybody else. And I had absolutely no training at all. During my time with community action and doing both, I was an executive director for both private, nonprofit, and public entities. I actually went back to school. This is my daughter, by the way. She'll introduce herself in a minute, Kelly Camp. And I got my bachelor's degree, and I got my master's degree, and at age 71, I got my doctorate degree. So you are never too old to learn is my motto. So I'm a nationally certified master Roma trainer. I'm an implementer and an advocate. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Kelly Camp. I may speak too loud, so if I do, please just let me know. I'm PJ's daughter, and once upon a time, I used to be an attorney, and then I had kids. I married a sailor, so we moved around a lot. It's really hard to continue to practice law when you're doing that. I'm now currently an education advocate. I'm also a nationally certified Roma trainer, not a master trainer, but I am a trainer, and I work with Dr. PJ, Dr. Mom, on doing this training.
Great, thanks. Okay, so we are going to show you some of the curriculum, but before we do that, I want to give you a little insight into why I developed this curriculum. As I said, growing up in community action, I saw many, many times when people were promoted into management positions without any training whatsoever. And we do like to promote from within in community action. So the training process is geared to people who have never had any kind of supervisory or management training at all. So your direct staff, your frontline staff, who you would like to see move up in your career path in your agency, that's who this is designed for. It's also designed for clients. So you can, once you're a trainer, you can then train clients, and it really helps them in their career path. After attending the 6.5-hour training, they get a certificate in entry-level management that they can then take with their resume. And the other piece of this is, once you're a trainer, you can go out in your community and your agency can train other nonprofits, for-profit people. You can charge a fee, and that fee goes directly back to your agency. We get nothing from that. It's trying to build the capacity of community action. So why is entry-level management important? Well, we have a lot of staff burnout. We have promoting from within is great, but we don't often do that. And turnover, we've realized in 2022 for community action, the national average for turnover was 30%. That's a lot of people. I'm not doing that yet. I'm still talking.
Right,
oh, okay, fine. Talking about data, fine. And so some of the factors involved in turnover are low wages. Of course, we can't compete with the for-profit world. They are high workload because we're expected to do a lot more with a lot less. There's sometimes a lack of benefits, but one of the major reasons is a lack of skills. There's that skill gap in supervision and management. So promoting from within is very helpful to the agency. The person is already there. You don't have to teach them all about community action and all about your agency. It improves morale when people see their peers moving up in management. And it reduces hiring costs. Trying to hire a new person to replace someone usually takes about 1.5 to 2 times their salary. And then there's a smoother transition when you're moving someone from within than trying to bring someone from the outside in. So some of the objectives, some of the benefits of entry-level management have to do with being able to demonstrate an increased knowledge in common terms and definitions, understanding management skills. We talk about that. We talk about organizational ability. We talk about leadership behaviors and leadership insights. This training helps to build confidence because a lot of our line staff and direct service staff might want to become supervisors or managers, but they feel, I'm not ready, I can't do that, I don't have any training, I haven't gone to college, I don't have any degrees, I don't know anything about management. This is a simple and cost-effective way of providing that training and confidence to them, so it really builds their confidence level. Oh, maybe I can go for that job. Maybe I will try to be a supervisor. They understand the quality of customer service. We talk about understanding and accepting appropriate ethics and looking at appreciative inquiry, which we will talk about, and being considered for an entry-level position. So how this works, and I'm going to ask my assistant here to demonstrate, and you have books on the table. So this is the trainer manual in English, the participant manual in English, the trainer manual in Spanish, and the participant manual in Spanish. If you want to just look at the English trainer manual for a minute, she's going to show you what that looks like, that there are terms and definitions, and there are trainer positions. You can just point out the light gray. There are trainer sections that really walk the trainer through how to actually present the material, how to actually do that. And it's usually in light gray. What page is that?
Page 15.
Page 15 shows you that what's in light gray in the trainer manual is for the trainer, and what's in dark black is what's already in the participant manual. So everything in the participant manual is embedded in the trainer manual. So again, this is part of the trainer manual. This is what we're looking at. We have a trainer introduction. We have the basic training program, how the training works, your role as a trainer. We talk about measurable outcomes because we're Roma, entrenched in Roma. And we talk about the process of training. So these are the sections, these are the sections in the books that we cover. We cover the basics, we cover communication, documentation, record keeping and budgets, ethics, appreciative inquiry, and how to be a leader. There is, in Roma fashion, a pre-test and a post-test. So the pre-test I'm going to put up here, just so you can see what it is. It's also in the book. The people taking this course will fill this out and actually do the test and see where they feel they are in the area of leadership and management. Then we'll present the material for 6.5 hours. Then they take the exact same test at the end. And we're hoping to see improvement. We're hoping to see increase in knowledge, but mainly an increase in confidence, an increase in their confidence level in the world of management. As I said, we have everything in English and Spanish. So that not only do we have the books, but we also have a PowerPoint for the trainer, which you can revise to make your own. You can put your own agency on it, and it walks you through all of the sections. So that was an example of the English, and that's an example of the Spanish. All right, I'm 1, right? Okay. All right, so the basics, just a little bit about the basics. We have a whole section on terms and definitions, and in the participant manual, they have all the terms and all the definitions. I don't go through every single one of them, but you can, with your PowerPoint, decide which ones you really want to talk about, and you leave them blank, and then you click, and up comes Appreciative Inquiry. How many of you know about Appreciative Inquiry? Oh, yay. All right. When we get to that, you'll really enjoy it. But again, as I said, you can alter this and revise it to make it your own and decide which things you want to talk about. Usually in a group setting, I have the participants look at the terms and see, are there any that you're familiar with? Is there anything that you want to talk about specifically? The conversation kind of goes really nicely. This is, again, geared to people who are not yet supervisors or managers or have just become supervisors or managers. So that's the Spanish version. And then this, as I was sharing earlier, this kind of shows you how the trainer manual is laid out. There are transitions between each section. Are any of you Roma certified? Okay. Going through the Roma certification, we both had lots of sticky notes and notes in our trainer manual and everything. And I said, nuh-uh, no. So we offer transition language in between each section. You are actually, make it your own, use your own wording if you want to, but it guides you into how to transition from this section to the next. But what we really want you to do is kind of make it your own. So then we talk about organizational ability. And we have self-assessments, and you might want to pull that out. It's in there somewhere. Self-confidence? Yeah, what's the first one? Yeah. All right, we're not going to do it yet. So we have self-assessments all the way through. And what we ask people to do is actually take the self-assessment, and then at the end, we don't ask them, what was your score? How did you do? We ask them, how do you feel about it? Did it confirm what you thought about yourself? Were there any surprises? And it's amazing the conversations that take place. So it's a very safe environment for them, and they get used to understanding, okay, this is about myself, and I'm going to learn more about myself. And then in this section, we also have an activity before this self-confidence one that is in small groups, and we have people pair up 2 and 2, and they each talk about something they love to do. And then when they come back to the group, they share what the other person loves to do. The reason we do it like that is because a lot of people in direct services have never talked in front of people before. They've never had that opportunity, and so they're scared. But this is an easy way, it's a nice way, a simple way of getting them to actually talk in front of the rest of the people participating. It's very comfortable, it's very safe. So that's a really fun activity.
It also tests your active listening.
Yes, yes it does, yes it does, which we have more of coming up. So we're actually going to hand this out to you and have you actually rate your own self-confidence. So you can take this test. I know you didn't study for the test, but you can take this test and see what it's like as a participant. Now you're probably going to have different answers than they do because they've never been in management before. So they might have some different ideas about how they feel as far as self-confidence, but you are probably familiar with working with other people, being in front of people. So we'll ask you to just take a minute here and go ahead and take the test. Yeah, that's later. That's after I bring up the next slide. And I'm sorry for those of you virtually. I don't have the test that I can shoot through this internet here. But if you're really interested, we have the information on the slides at the end of how you can contact us. How we doing, okay? Are we done? Need another minute? Okay, in the trainer manual and in the participant manual are how we look at the scoring. But you can look at just up on the slide right now and see that if you have answered 1, 3, 8, 9, 13, and 15 in the positive in numbers 4 or 5, then you're pretty high confidence. You have a pretty high confidence level. So you're looking where you scored 4 or 5 and see how many of those 1, 3, 8, 9, 13, and 15 you have. And then debriefing this, we simply go around the room and say, were there any surprises, or did this actually confirm what you thought about yourself? So let's hear from you guys. Was it a surprise, or did it confirm what you thought about yourself?
I think it's interesting the way that you guys break it down, where like you can generally say, are you self-confident? And someone can say, yeah, sure. But as you go into like each of these different things, like all these different components that like I wouldn't consider to be a part of what I think self-confidence is, but and that could be for both ways, for something that maybe, you know, you think that you have all that self-confidence and maybe you don't, or on the other end, like for people who might not feel like they have self-confidence.
And
but
they could be surprised. Absolutely, yep. What about you? Did it confirm how you were, or pretty much what you thought? What about you guys? Yeah, pretty much thought? Okay.
Just maybe like, as I was answering these questions, like I kept referring back to situations of like having to reflect and go back.
Yeah. Great. All right. All right. So then at the end of each section, we have review questions, which we go over with people. So I'm just going to have the first set of questions, the rest ones, this is just to show you what it's like. So we have 4 questions here. We ask people to fill them out in their participant manual, and then we have a conversation. So anybody want to talk about number 1? What did number 1 mean to you? And pretty soon people start talking. This is another time, another opportunity for them to talk in front of other people. They might be used to talking one-on-one with a client, but talking in front of other people sometimes is scary. So this is just one more very subtle way of getting people to talk with their peers and with everybody in the room. And then we move to communication. Oh, yes, I can hand that out while you talk. So what I'm handing out is just a little, knowing a little bit more about cultivating self-confidence.
Yeah, there's 4.
So in section 2, we go over communication, which includes manager expectations. That encompasses good communication, listening, customer service, organizational and professional communication, interview skill building, and conflict management. So manager expectations, this covers on-time responses, following up, documentation, because if it's not written down, it doesn't exist, right? If you don't have documentation, it didn't happen. And clarity. There we go. This is one of the activities that we go through that's actually not in the book, but it leads into something in the book where we talk about different communication styles. So this, imagine that you're at a company and you get this notice, all team members will work overtime until further notice. How do you feel? And then what about this one? Due to the latest information on the market opportunities for this latest product, it will be necessary for all team members to work overtime for the next 10 days to get the design completed. Thank you. How does this one make you feel? It's a bit better, maybe not great, but better. And that's important to think about. That's exactly the type of clarity and communication that we're talking about. There is a listening activity, so you can rate yourself. You want to think about a specific meeting or the last gathering that you attended and think about how you would answer these questions. And then we move on to body language, and we are actually going to do this activity. So in this activity, what we are going to do is usually we would have one person leave the room, and we give out little slips of paper that say a specific emotion. And then you keep that secret, and then that person comes back in, and then everybody shares about what their favorite food is and why, utilizing the body language or the emotion on that piece of paper. And then the person that had stepped out of the room has to guess what they were. This is a really fun activity. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to give each of you one and give you a chance to talk about your favorite food and why. And then I think we will all guess which emotion you are.
So you saw what your body language is. So you're thinking about something really food that you really want to talk about, but you have to talk about it, communicating from the slip of paper. And then we have to guess who you are, what you are. Okay, you ready for rehearsal time?
Time to get into character? All right. You ready? All right.
I really love chicken tikka masala. It's so yummy, and you can get it in different spice levels. I usually get it like mild plus because I like a little spice, but not enough to die. And when you add it with turmeric rice, it's just like the sauce and the chicken, and oh, I want some right now. Now it's making me hungry. So yeah, that's my favorite food.
I'm still trying to think of my favorite food. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess like my favorite food on, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I like burgers or something. I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you. Not at all.
My favorite food. Oh, that was really loud. My favorite food is chicken. But you know, sometimes it's really hard to cook. But and I really, when I want to go to get it to take out, there's always a really long line. So I just don't feel like doing it anymore. But yeah, that's my favorite.
Okay. So what did we think? Courtney. What was Courtney? She got excited back there. I was thinking excited as well. It was happy. Happy and excited are very close. Yes. All right. And Andrew? What? See, I thought it was bored. Oh, it wasn't an option. Not today. Yeah. All right. Claudia. Did you get lazy? It was angry. Angry is by far my favorite, because it's really interesting, people trying to talk about something that they enjoy. And this, some people get really into it. Love it. We have had people banging on the table, I love tacos! Very angrily, they're the best! Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it loosens everybody up, and makes it an even safer space. And then we get into more organizational and professional communication. We have some activities. We have some activities for public speaking where you have to do, that's the 1 minute one, right? Where you have to speak for a minute on something that you know really well. So you're basically practicing telling people what you're going to tell them, telling them, and then telling them what you told them. We go through interview skill building. So you know those generic interview questions that nobody really knows how to answer, that you feel awkward trying to. What are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Share an example of your ability to work independently. What? But doing it in a group situation is really helpful because you get the richness of everyone else's answers. So if you have no idea what your strengths are or what to say about weaknesses, it's really interesting and helpful because I don't know about you, but I haven't really had an avenue to have discussions with other people about these specific questions that everybody seems to struggle with. So that is a really good section. And then we talk briefly about conflict management. And one of the best ways to diffuse conflict is to say, that's interesting, tell me more. It has to be said with genuine curiosity, but it can immediately de-escalate a situation. It's not appropriate for all situations, but for many, this is something that works really well. And I think that is it for section 2.
I don't have enough hands. Okay, all right. So any questions so far on the material, how we present the material? As I said, yes, go ahead.
How big are the groups typically?
The in-person ones we like to keep to 20 or less. The virtual we can have a little bit more because we can put them into actual breakout rooms, but I wouldn't do more than 30. It's hard to keep track of everybody, but 20, 25 in a room, and then you've got all that experience or inexperience that they start sharing, and then they get comfortable with each other and really start talking out loud and have that chance. Sometimes what we do and we're skipping over a lot of material here, but sometimes what we do is have people read some of the material and then ask everybody else to discuss it. So again, that's a beginning leadership technique. It's kind of a little directional technique. All right, so section 3 has to do with documentation, record keeping, and budgets. So there's some conversation about your own personal expenses. We don't ask you what they are, but we ask you who does their finances totally online and on the computer, and people raise their hand. And then I say, well, I pay mine online, but I still have a paper checkbook. I still have to go into the bank and ask the teller for paper checkbooks because that's what I grew up with. That's what I'm used to. That's how I do my record keeping for myself. Even though I do everything online, I balance my checkbook to the penny every morning. Drives her crazy. She, however, does it, oh, I think it's about this much. It's whatever you're used to, but everybody does have some kind of system personally in their own personal finances. In business, in agencies, you can't quite be that casual. And many agencies have a full accounting department. They have somebody else doing that whole finance department thing. But as a manager, it's really good to kind of know, what does data look like? So the first thing we talk about is the data. What kind of data can we look at? And we talk about, I'm sure you fill out reports. After you fill out the reports, what happens to them? Well, usually, I don't know, I give it to my supervisor or I give it to my manager. So we start teaching them to look at, can data tell you? And one of the examples we use, and this is in the back of the books, is we break them into groups, and then we have them look at this data, which is census data, that has to do with percentage of poverty, population, and unemployment rate over a period of years. And then we ask them to look at, do you see any trends? Is there anything that jumps out at you? So it's the first time they're really looking at a report other than filling it out and seeing, what does this tell me? And so over a period of years, you can see just by looking at it, there are some maybe trends that match the population. Something's happening with unemployment and poverty, but it's giving them the first opportunity to really analyze some data. Because once you become a supervisor or a manager, you're getting those reports. And then you're responsible for actually looking at them and seeing, what is it telling us? What is it telling me? So that's the first part of record keeping. And then we talk about finances for a little bit, and then we get into what is a budget. One of the slides that we have, which is not here because we have to condense, is a budget of $100,000, and it just is income, 100,000, expenses, 100,000. Okay, that tells me we have a balanced budget, but it doesn't tell me what I need to know. So this is some information, very basic, that's very simple, that can tell us this is where the money is coming from, and these are the expenses and how we're using them. So this is a very simple format. What we like to then promote is what we call fund accounting. You probably can't read this, but it is in the back of the books. And what we do is, along the top, we have all of the funding sources. For you who are virtual, I hope you can see this. We have CSBG, HUD-1, HUD-2, HUD-3, HUD-4, COVID funding, grant funding, donations, in-kind, and donations and in-kind. And then along the left side, we have all of the expenditures, where those dollars are going. So we have the total dollar amount at the top that each funding source gives us, and how we're allocating it for those expenses. I recommend you take the strictest funding first, and that goes on the left side. And then as it eases up, it goes further to the right. HUD will only pay for certain things. CSBG will pay for a lot of things. Some grants, you only get a grant for senior housing, so it doesn't pay for other things. So you would put along the top what those are and what they pay for. The donations and fundraising, I recommend that we do things like this service clubs do, like Rotary and Lions and Seroptimus. The funding they're giving out this year is what they raised last year. It's in the bank. But nonprofits are notorious for putting in the budget $42,000. Board says they're going to raise $42,000 this year. Halfway through the year, they've raised $5,000. But you still have expenses for what you thought would be the $42,000. So you really want to make sure that when you put in the budget donations, that that's what's actually in the bank this year, that you raised last year. Then you know your budget is safe, at least for this year. In-kind donations, we can have those. We want to make sure that they are specific to areas that are not funded by other dollars. And then the balanced budget. So we spend a little bit of time going over this with the participants, having them ask questions and understanding how important it is to see fund accounting. Again, most nonprofits have their own, or public entities have their own accounting departments, but it's really nice for your program to understand where you are, or to at least start beginning to understand what is involved in a budget. All right, also included in that, we have confidentiality. We talk about confidentiality in that section. And especially today when we are so close to each other in cubicles and have our computers and laptop stuff, some people do not get trained in how to do confidentiality that way. We think, okay, let's just not talk loud. But if I have confidential information on my laptop and I walk away, somebody walking by can see that information. And we really want to protect our clients and our customers. So we want to make sure that if we have something on their desk that has confidential information, when we walk away, we just turn it over. Or if someone walks into the room, we just turn it over. So that's some of the confidentiality that we talk about when we go through this. And I believe that's it for section 3.
I just want to mention it's really
Yeah.
great that you talk about budgeting and stuff like that, because I feel like that's, in a lot of situations, that's what has been holding me back, because I'm like, I have no budgeting experience. Like, to be in a manager position and like having to deal with data and budgeting, I feel like that's the number one thing that's like holding me back.
Yeah, and it can be scary. But if you look at it in a more simplistic way first, because if you go to accounting and say, let me see the budget, they're probably going to give you a spreadsheet of 26 pages long and tiny, tiny print and say, here you go. And you're going, wait, what? What is that? What does that say? But if you can start more simple and then look at the fund accounting is really good for new managers, program managers to really see, how is my program funded? What are we supposed to spend? And then you can look at it actuals to what you thought would happen. But in talking about it with people around the room, they say the exact same thing. Kind of builds your confidence a little that, oh, okay, maybe I can learn this. We do have accounting, but maybe I can learn a bit more about this. And that data analysis is a key piece, and we spend quite a bit of time on that because, as I said, when you're not a manager, you just do the report and send it in, it's Friday, go home. But the managers have to see, what are they telling me? What is the data telling me? So we do spend a bit of time on that. All right, I don't have the review questions up here. We just wanted to keep moving through.
And that brings us to ethics.
Woohoo!
No excitement. That's all right. It's the afternoon. Nobody cares about ethics in the afternoon. So there's more to think about when you're in a management position when it comes to ethics. So we go through a few different things: service, respect, integrity, competence. And we ask things like, how would you handle this kind of a situation? Have you ever had a situation where this has been an issue? What would you do? How would you handle it? And here you can see those questions as part of that activity. Okay, so for example, service. A client is asking for something your organization does not offer. How do you handle the situation? And what's funny is this is actually addressed earlier in communication, where we have a section on how to say no without saying no. So ideally, by the time you get to here, you'd have an answer for that. Because we have already practiced how to say no without saying no. And then we get into the phenomenon of being a manager where you need to be friendly with all, friends with none, because perception is reality. We'll get into that in just a minute. So when you are in a supervisory capacity, it's fine if you still have friendships with people that are maybe lower on that hierarchy than you, but there cannot be that perception that they get more favorable assignments than other people, right? So we go through an entire section about how important that is and that perception is reality. So it's important to just be friendly with everyone and friends with none until it's time to go home, you know, and we go through some of those scenarios. So we're going to do some scenarios. How do we want to do this?
Andrew, do you mind joining first so that the two of you could pick one and the two of you can pick one? Okay. Give you guys this one.
So we have 4 scenarios in the book, and we break everyone up into groups, and we ask them to read the scenario and then come back to the group and tell everyone what they think should be done.
And these are just ideas as responses. You can come up with your own responses. So just read the scenario first, and then work together and see if you like any of those responses or if you want to come up with something different.
Okay. Mhm.
She called twice. He might be able to take the kids. Okay. Good. We're gonna be done way early. But I'm gonna talk, I still have all this to talk about. You can do the micromanagement. Yeah, but I'm still, the micromanagement is a fun one. You can explain the peanut butter and jelly.
Okay. Do we have some ideas? All right, let's go over scenario number 1. Ayel has been working at a bank for several years. She and her peer Sally worked together for 3 years, but because of Sally's previous banking experience, she was promoted to assistant manager. Sally and the manager do not get along and are often overheard yelling and disagreeing on many issues. Sally has developed a my way or the highway attitude, and it's causing tension in the bank. Sally is over-demanding and picks on one staff member in particular, Keenan. Keenan has started talking about quitting due to undue stress and maybe even suing the bank for unfair practices and harassment. Ayel listens to Keenan but does nothing with the information. Later, she overhears Keenan mentioning his intention to sue the bank to other staff members, and she must decide what to do about the situation. Group number 1. What should Ayel do?
So I recommended an option that's not on the list. What I first said that I would do is I would pull Keenan aside, because if she overheard Keenan saying that he's going to sue the bank, I'm sure other people heard, and it's going to get back to Sally in one way or another, and it's just going to make her mad. And so, maybe there's a time that I could approach Keenan and say, I heard you say this. What is your end goal in wanting to sue the bank? That's a lot of effort and it's very stressful, and like maybe there could be another way you could resolve this. And then offering and saying, have you talked to Sally? Have you told her that you don't appreciate how she speaks to you and it makes you uncomfortable? And if you are interested, like, I'd be happy to be a third party in that conversation so you feel safe when you talk to her, and just kind of be that support system for him to address the problem that he feels he's having. So that's what we discussed. Did you have anything to add?
Excellent. Good job. All right. Scenario number 2. That's the one that you have, right? Hidden gifts? Okay. Grace works for a large company and oversees office supply procurement for the building. To stay within budget, Grace negotiates with several vendors based on price, quantity, and quality. One day, a vendor called her requesting to send more supplies to her company. She knew the copy paper was running low and the vendor had reasonable prices and quality, so she agreed and placed an order. Along with the shipment of copy paper, there's a box labeled with her name. When she opened the box, it was a nice set of pens. The following month, Grace received another call from the vendor seeking approval to ship more supplies. This time, she declined the offer, stating supplies were adequate and nothing was needed at the time. The vendor became upset and said without an order, she would be in breach of some agreement, but she was not aware of any agreement. He also mentioned if she allowed the order to be filled, he would send along an even nicer gift for her. Group number 2, what should Grace do?
Second, she would ask for a copy of the agreement, and then she would take any of that information and go to her supervisor or person of that status, and then they would decide whether legal department needed to be called or not.
I like that. Very clear, very decisive. Any comments?
What if you're the supervisor? What decision will you make, legal or not?
Probably depending on whether or not there's actually an agreement.
Yeah.
And if there's no agreement, I mean.
Then you kick rocks.
Right? Yeah, if there's no agreement, then maybe you don't want to work with them anymore because they're lying to you that there's an agreement, they're pressuring you.
Sure, but if there is an agreement, then talking to legal about, like, if you're the person who's doing all of this procurement and you have no idea that there was some agreement that was assigned, like, what's up with that? And then, and then getting legal department involved to say, like, how did this happen?
Right.
To put us in this situation.
And how do we get out of it? Yeah.
Well, and I feel like the bribery of pens and more gifts to boost possibly what could be a commission sales,
Mm-hmm.
it does need to go to legal if it's not,
Yeah.
controlled.
Yep. And it usually starts small, right? Usually something like this starts with something like pens, and then next thing it's a bottle of wine, and then it gets bigger, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm being bribed. how did that happen? So this is also to show you how quickly and easily, how innocently something like that can start, and to be thinking about it ahead of time. We have a couple of other scenarios, reporting an accident at work. And I love the examples. What should this person do? Maybe send him to the doctor, forget that it happened, and just go on with your day. So we do have, it's kind of fun because there are right answers, there are wrong answers, and then there are the answers that everyone else comes up with. Ghosting in the workplace is one of my favorites. If an employee ghosts you, what do? Do you call the police and do a welfare check? Maybe something happened. Do you call the new company and complain? So it gets you thinking about a lot of those things that you just have to deal with as a manager that are unique situations. And that brings us to the section 4 review.
Thank you. I'm going to stand there. Yep. Okay, so this one is about appreciative inquiry, and I didn't think anybody raised their hands when I asked, are you familiar with appreciative inquiry? All right, thank you. So a lot of times we use, when we're doing planning and strategic planning, we talk about the SWOT method. Have you heard about the SWOT method? Strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. It's a good method, but there has some negative connotations to it. Appreciative inquiry, I need to move. Sorry. Starts out positive. It starts out with discovery. So in the planning process, what you do is you look at what's working well. What are we doing really well in our department, at the agency? What's going on? And you can pick and choose what sections you want to talk about. You want to talk about personnel, facilities, equipment, materials. It's really a fun thing to do, to see, have everybody around the room thinking about what's working really well. And then we bring it, you can go ahead and pass those out. Then after we do that, we bring that to you and we say, now start filling this out and think about your own career, your own life, and think about what is it that is working really well. Think of a time when your career was at its highest point. It could be right now. It could be a little while ago. You don't have to do this right now. We're just sharing with you what we have the participants do. So we ask them to think about a time when their career was at its highest point and write down some things about it. What was going on? What was working well? Is it now that it's happening? So you're really discovering in your own career what's working well. And then we talk about, let's see, what's the next slide? Yeah. And then we talk about dream. And we talk at the agency, at your department. What would it look like if you had all the resources in the world? What would that look like? And then we bring it again back to the participant, back to you, and say, in your career, what would it look like when you had everything you wanted to have? And then we move on to design, where we again talk at the program level or department level, but bringing it back and saying, in the design section, how would you stay professional? What would help you to stay professional? What would help you to renew your enthusiasm about your career? What would help you really, what are some steps that you personally can take in your own career? And then we talk about destiny, which is actually setting a schedule. So when we talk about the departments or the program or the agency, we actually pick some low-hanging fruit and say, well, I think I can do this in the next 30 days or in the next 60 days. And then we bring it again back to the participants, to you, and say, okay, what can you do? What steps can you take right now to describe maybe some timelines, some things that you would want to do to get things done? Thank you. So then in the book, we actually have a section, Appreciative Inquiry in action. And we took an agency and had their leadership team determine what areas they wanted to talk about. They wanted to talk about the board, the facilities, the staff capacity and training, program design, and outcomes. So then we had big sheets of paper on tables, and we had everybody go around the room and write what was working really well in each of these. Then we brought those back and looked and saw, well, there are some things that are the same. There's some trends here that are similar. Then we had them do the same thing and go about what they would like to see in each of those areas, the board, the staff, that sort of thing, and brought that back. Then we had them design a couple of steps that we thought that they might be able to handle within the next 6 to 12 months. And then from there, we actually got a strategic plan, because we really were able to hone in starting in the positive and staying positive the whole way through. Oops. Chair's my nemesis. All right, and then we have the review questions. Yes.
I really like the appreciative inquiry part because most people don't go through that thought process. And especially if you're speaking with somebody young that hasn't had a lot of work experience or has had a bunch of jobs that they didn't like, that kind of a thing, you can broaden it to, if you had a summer job that you enjoyed, what parts of it did you enjoy? If you had classes that you took, what parts of that did you enjoy? And start to see if there are patterns and if there are pieces of that in the position you have right now or in the position that you want to move into. And it helps create a path forward with some level of focus where usually there isn't a lot of focus. I just wanted to say that real quick. Appreciative inquiry is my favorite. A lot of these are my favorites. Okay, so then the last section, sorry. Yeah, because you did those. Okay, how to be a leader. So we have an assessment, a self-assessment in here about how you handle conflict. So we have you think about some disagreements that you've had in a team setting, maybe with a friend or a coworker, not family, and how you would handle it, how you would handle that conflict. And then sometimes we will ask, okay, now what if it were family? How would you handle it? And you can see how it's very different. And then we get a feel for, okay, what did you think about your conflict management style? And are there other styles that you might prefer to learn more about? We go into taking on new responsibilities and being careful about what you say, who your audience is, being aware of who is in the room for what you're talking about. So we have a couple of questions like some coworkers want to meet at a restaurant after work. They invited you, do you go? Coworkers are getting together to celebrate a staff member's birthday outside of the office. You're invited to attend, sign the card, and pay for a gift. What do you do? We talk about resiliency. All of us are more resilient than we really understand. We've all made it somewhat successfully through COVID. That was massive. That was not on anybody's bingo card, right? But we're still here and we're still pushing forward. And there's a self-assessment in here specifically about resiliency that can help you understand that maybe you are more resilient than you thought you were. We go into followership because a good part of being a leader is being a good follower. Micromanagement is coming up. We go into micromanagement. Micromanagement can hold managers back because they think that I'm the only one that knows how to do it right, right? Good managers understand the value of their employees and they accept that people are different and might approach the same task in a different way. And we have a lovely example of micromanaging about a mom and her twin daughters. No relation, of course. No, it's a true story about my mom and me and my sister. We were taught how to clean the fish tank. And my mom had a very particular way of how she would do it. She's a Virgo. So all the steps that she would take to do it, and she taught us how to do it. And by the time we learned how to clean the fish tank, she had to then leave the room when we did it because our way was not her way. But the end result was the same. The fish tank was clean, the fish were still alive, and I think happy in their environment. So there was no water on the floor. We had cleaned it all up. But she had to actually leave the room because she couldn't handle watching us do it a completely different way. But she gave us that space to do it our way, and we ended up with the same result. So that's a fun lesson in micromanaging. Okay, and then we get to a really fun activity.
Okay, it's called peanut butter and jelly, and I don't know how many of you ever had done this activity, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich for an alien. All right, good. So what we do is break people into teams, and we have you write down the steps it takes to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for an alien who speaks English but doesn't have a clue what a sandwich is supposed to look like or what to do. And then we actually bring loaves of bread and jam and knives and stuff into the room and have people do it. Virtually, this one gets to do it. She's the alien. She's got alien little antenna that she does. And people think they're doing great because they have like 16 steps on how to do it. So the step one is usually get the bread. So she gets the bread, and then it says open the bread. Well, it doesn't tell anybody how to open the bread. So this one tears into the middle with her teeth. And then it says take out 2 pieces and lay them on a paper plate. So people usually get that one right. And then they say, now get the peanut butter jar and open the lid. Now get some peanut butter. Many times there's that little other security seal under the lid, so she has to poke through that to get to the peanut butter. You get the gist. People end up having her hold the peanut butter jar and the jam jar because they don't say put it down. That's not written anywhere. But what this does is it kind of brings a lot of this all together because delegating, understanding, not micromanaging, but being detail-oriented, and it's hysterical. People really have a good time with it. So that's our last activity for the group. And then we move into a closure that we talk about, that we are all leaders at some point in our lives. We all have to manage something in our lives. And a good explanation is when there's, and I shouldn't say this because we're going to go on a plane, when there's a plane crash, the first leaders usually are the ones that are helping move people into safety, making sure people have what they need, that they're safe and bandaged and whatever. The next set of leaders are usually finding, okay, where should we stage ourselves so away from the wreck, and what does that look like, and how can we get that done? And then another set of leaders come up, they're the foragers, so they go and look for food and water and that kind of thing. That's a very dramatic explanation, but we're leaders in our churches, we're leaders with our kids, we're leaders in our families. We are leaders and managers. We have to manage our own lives. You had to get here. Somehow you physically got here, so you had to manage your life to get here. And then the final thing we do is we have the post-test, but then after the post-test, we have post-test. We have the capstone session. And we ask everybody in attendance to take a few minutes, and it's in the back of their book, to complete this capstone section. And it's which section was most helpful personally or professionally and why. And how do you think you're going to apply this information at your agency? And then the next one is, what was the most challenging section? Gets them thinking about it, why, and how would you apply that information? And then the last one is, name the thing you will implement personally or professionally, like in the next 30 days. So it really gets people thinking about what one thing or a couple things might they do, and that's part of the capstone section. And that is our website, www.elmtrainers.com. We have everything on there. And as I said, our intention, we do in-person training, we do virtual training, but our intention is to have someone at your agency become a trainer. So they can then train the line staff, they can train clients, and as I said, you can go out in the community and train other nonprofit organizations, and that fee can come back to your agency. So that in a nutshell, I know it's very short time. We get done, we're getting done a little early, it's 4:07. So yes, questions?
Where do you host your in-person sessions?
We'll go anywhere as long as we can get travel to get there. We're from California, so we've done some in Fresno, we've done some in Southern California, San Luis Obispo, Bakersfield. We went to Bakersfield in August. It was 115 degrees. It was so exciting. We've done blended. In our case, blended worked really well because we had 10 people in person from one county, and another county was geographically really far away, so we had them virtually, but we had them up on a big screen so they could participate. And when we broke out into breakout groups, we put them in breakout rooms, and it was fine. Everybody participated. Part of the training for the trainer is to make sure that the trainer gets everybody talking. So if someone hasn't been saying anything, then say, well, what do you think? So part of that training in the trainer manual is to make sure everybody sometime during the day gets a chance to speak. Yes?
Can we, if, you know, like I were to become a trainer, can we do this over the course of time, or does it all have to be one day?
It's 6.5 hours, however you choose to do it. You can do 2.5 hours, you can do an hour each time, whatever works for you. Once you become a trainer, and we have here it is. Normally for community action, well, it's about $5.99 for nonprofits, $4.99 for nonprofits, $3.99 for community action agencies. But we have a conference special for $200 that by attending today, you would be able to get a trainer manual and a participant manual. You get access to the PowerPoints and access to us, who can help you do whatever training you are interested in doing. And it can be anyone at your agency. It doesn't have to be you. We do have a virtual training that we're doing for $150, September 16th. But if you do the trainer portion, this is included free. So it gives you the opportunity to see how we do it in live, and see how we do all the activities, how we interact, how we get the participants to interact. So it gives you the opportunity to see that in action. And again, we have the books in English and Spanish and the PowerPoints in English and Spanish. The participant manuals on Amazon are $25, but if you get them from me, they're $20 because I don't have to pay for what they have to pay for. No, because you have this, we know you've been here because nobody else has this. So you can go back to the agency, talk it over, see if there's someone at the agency interested in becoming a trainer, and then just email me. The email's right on the bottom there, and we can have conversations back and forth. We can Zoom, whatever you need. Yeah, we're here to help you.
What if I'm like the only one who wants to do it? Like you,
Do you want to just take the class, or do you want to become a trainer? Okay, then you and I can work one-on-one. Not a problem.
and then what about taking the training in person?
You taking the training in person before you become a trainer? Because right now we're only doing virtual. If we have a training, where are you from? Colorado? Yeah. Okay. It would have to be a Colorado in person for us to include you into that. But if you can get enough people to participate, then we can come to Colorado. Yeah.
But right now, virtual options.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
that's okay.
So, in the training manual, the dark black is what the participants read.
The dark black is everything that's in here. They don't see any of the gray or the red.
And you said you have them read it?
Sometimes, depending on what you're talking about, like there's a second, where's that section in section 1, where there's a couple of things that we have them look at. It's right after there it is.
So like sometimes I would read it and then sometimes they would read it.
Right. So we have, let me get back to it. You can decide how you want to train. You can, but we recommend that you don't just read word for word. That's kind of boring. But we do have in this section here, management, oh yeah, that's what page is that?
So on page 12 in the participant, or page 15 in the trainer.
It gives you instructions that say, have a participant read this, and then this is how you have them discuss it. And you listen for what they're saying, and if they don't say some of the things we have in here, this is a clue for you to add in some more information. So you don't have to think on your feet. If they cover some of this, fine, but if they don't, we've got a lot of material in here for you to fill in as well.
And there's several different options under like management skills. You don't have to do all of them.
Yeah.
You can choose which ones to do, and you might say like, okay, I would like Claudia, why don't you take number 5 and talk about it, which can help get people doing some more
And-
public speaking, or you can start the conversation and then incorporate everyone else's voices.
Yeah, a gentler way is I usually say, pick one of these that you would like to talk about. And then when I call on you, you tell me which one. And it can be the same as somebody else's because you have a different point of view. You're welcome. Anything else?
Is this certification like state-based or is it just?
It's a national certification. You can do entry-level management training anywhere actually in the world. I haven't been to Ireland recently, but you could do it if you wanted to.
Okay, so it's a national.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you if anybody's there virtually.